but never look at.
The absolute best visual decision we made was where Arthur's neighborhood was. I set Arthur in Brownsville initially, which is the toughest of the tough of our neighborhoods here in New York. We put him in a quasi-project, not the straight-up projects that look the same everywhere, but a version of that, in a taller, bigger building where he would be more anonymous. We liked it, and we lived with it for a long time, but one thing bugged Todd about it, and it was the lack of topography, that it's flat. Todd's idea was to set Arthur in the South Bronx. Not the Fort Apache South Bronx, but the hilly South Bronx, one where he's trudging up public stairways and through alleys and in non-grid-like streets. And it confuses his world in a good way. So it added a real character to where Arthur lives and to our Gotham. People don't think of hills when they think of New York.
The world Todd created with Marc and everybody else was incredible. And the score, I have to say, is also indelible. The score is incredible. It almost feels like that's what you heard if you were walking down the streets of Gotham in 1981. You know, it's not apart from the film, it's part of it.
I started writing the music just after reading the script. So I just started playing the cello a bit, which is my main instrument, and just played around with some melodies and some feelings, and I kind of sat with it for a few hours, and then I was actually kind of just like practicing something else, and then I kind of stumbled onto what became the main theme afterwards. It was just like a really strong feeling of almost like something clicking into place, because it just connected with exactly the same feeling that I had when I read the script, and I was like, you know, so I caught my breath, and then I was just like, okay, and just started recording, and that's kind of where the main theme was born, out of this feeling. Like, this is how he feels, you know, this is what this feels like.
For my whole life, I didn't know if I even really existed. But I do.
Every time I've ever written a movie, I always have to write it with an actor in mind. It really just helps fuel the writing. So I really specifically wrote for Joaquin Phoenix.
And I remember Todd sent me a drawing of Joker in the subway, and it looked just like Joaquin Phoenix. He said, yeah, I just keep getting him, I can't get him out of my head. And this is years ago.
What I like about Joaquin is his unpredictability. He's playing jazz while other people are doing math. He's just doing his own thing. And I feel like that's very much what we saw the character of Arthur / Joker as. And I just thought, boy, if we get him, we could really do something special.
For me, when I work with a director, I just want somebody that has a singular vision and a really unique take on the material. And it was clear based on Todd's screenplay that he had a real sensitivity to the challenges that Arthur is going through. He felt things in a way that I hadn't expected.
Joaquin certainly had a ton of questions, and I think he also had the same thing I have, which is this fear. This is a big thing to take on. This isn't going to be a small little anonymous film. The Joker's been interpreted and done so many times over the years, and I think there hasn't been a bad one yet. So there's a certain fear. I love that fear. I kind of turned it into adrenaline, and you just go and make the movie. But I think a lot of it was just us talking through that stuff. And then I'm sure he had his own reservations about having never worked with me and all these other things. It just becomes a process of getting to know each other. And I think we spent a few months doing that before he said he would do it. Having spoken to many actors, I know nothing helps them more than wardrobe. Even like walking into Arthur's apartment for the first time for Joaquin, I don't think has the same effect as putting on the clothing. Putting on that skin, so to speak, helps actors that final step in.
When we first meet Arthur, he is very much John Q. Public, so to speak. Not much style, it's very practical. There's a vague young man aspect to it, but there's also vaguely an old man look to it, too. Where ultimately the Joker outfit comes from is something very organic.
The Joker look, which is so important to so many fans and people and so iconic in every version that the Joker's been out, you could imagine their wardrobes. And we wanted to do something different but similar, and it's just a lot of discussions.
I love the fact that there was a suit written into the script.
The suit that he wears on stage at the comedy club is actually the same suit that he is as Joker, but we kind of subtly changed the tone of the fabric and hope you don't really notice, but it's really always that same suit.
When we had our final fitting for the suit, it was all put together with the right shirt, with the right waistcoat, and the fit of it was kind of really dead on 70s, where it's a little longer line in the jacket. Joaquin was very excited about it, and he took on this different kind of slinky, sexy walk, which is just right for this guy at the end of the story.
We talked a lot about how skinny should Arthur be and how far do we want to go. And I kept saying to him, when are you going to start losing weight? Like, at what point do you start this? Because it was already like June, and he hadn't started, and we started shooting in September, and he's like 180 pounds, which he wasn't fat, but we were talking about getting to 125 pounds. And he goes, I got it. I go, well, we can hire a guy. I got this thing. This woman is a nutritionist, might want to. No, that's not how I do it. I go, how do you do it? He goes, I just stop eating and I starve myself. And he just ate an apple a day for the whole summer.
When I laid eyes on him at a table read, he had lost 50 pounds. He was like a shell of himself. He was fully immersing himself into the role.
We never rehearsed the character. We never talked really specifically about what he would do. All we really talked about was script and story and character, but we never talked about how are you going to do it, you know what I mean? I think his process is one of surprise for himself.
We were working spontaneously, which was just the flavor of this movie and what made the most sense for it. It was something that we really couldn't figure everything out in advance. We had to find it in the moment. And so you need a director that thinks that way.
There were all these changes sort of that kept happening as we were filming and as they were sort of discovering the story and seeing what they had and seeing, oh, the story can move in this direction or that direction. And before we would shoot on a day, me and Joaquin and Scott and Todd would meet up in Todd's trailer and sort of rewrite scenes together, and then we'd have it printed out, and that's what we'd be doing that night. And I've never really worked with somebody who is so open to shifting as the story needs it.
Well, Todd, first of all, is viciously smart. And his willingness to just go outside of any boundary to tell the story that he wants to tell. It's very hard to put him in a box. I mean, the first thing he did was a documentary about G.G. Allen. And I think once you become notable as a comedic director, a lot of people definitely see you as just that. But I've always known that he's an auteur.
There's so much that comes up on a comedy that is spur of the moment, whether it's improvisation or just, it'd be really funny if we do this, and you just sort of throw a wrench in the whole thing and you do it because you're servicing the joke. Well, working with Joaquin wasn't all that different, and you needed to be facile.
Todd would come up with these great lines spontaneously, and I would usually doubt them and make him feel bad and say that he's wrong and it's a bad idea. And then I would try it. I'd go like, that was a really great line. I mean, he consistently did that. He's also really good at identifying kind of rhythmically things that weren't working in the scene and would come up with really great solutions to them in the moment.
We had scripted a scene where Arthur runs into the bathroom and he has to get rid of this gun that he had been given that was now evidence. And so he pulls the grate off the bathroom wall and he hides his gun in there. And then he kind of washes his face, the makeup off his face and all this stuff. And when we got in the bathroom that day, it was just me and Joaquin, and we're standing there, we're trying to, well, should we put in this grate? And we just start talking about, does Arthur really care about evidence? And does Arthur really care about, does he even know enough? Like, what did he see this in a movie, like hide a gun? Like, why is it even in his language to do that? And then we're like, yeah, let's not do that. Oh, okay, well, what should we do?